Hello. An unusual video today for me of a recent journey where I learn a lot about Cine Film transfers and also collect some video equipment along the way. I don't run Cine Films myself, so I'm going to see my good friend Chris Squires, who is an expert on the subject. Okay, Scott, tell me what we're doing today.
We're going to see your friend Chris and going to pick up some video recorders.
Great. We've got a long journey ahead of us.
Nope.
So here's the machine, one of the machines we've come to collect. It's an Ampex C format. It's not in the best condition, but we'll have a play with that one later. And also we have a small collection of S-VHS machines, and the plan is that I fix one of those and return it to young Chris. Oh, few seconds. A little bit further. Right. Mains need trouble, just a second. Slow. Right. Do you think we roll it in? This is Chris of SaveThoseMemories.co.uk.
Good morning. This is Chris from Save Those Memories, and what you're looking at is the only machine of its type in the British Isles. It's called the Memory HD, made by CTM Debris, which are a lovely company based in Paris, and what it handles is all of the small format Cine Films. This is standard 8 film, and as you'll notice here we have the typical packet that it came back from the processors. Kodak would have been yellow, Boots would have been blue and orange, Dixon's would have been orange, Fuji would have been green, Ilford would have been white. So lots of different colours that tell you who made the actual film that you have in your hands. The film itself is only sprocketed on one side. It's 8mm wide, but with standard 8, which went right from the 1920s through to the 1980s, the actual picture was only 5.5mm wide, which is quite small. This was superseded by what I'll show you next, which is Super 8. This is a large reel of Super 8 film from the 1970s. This would have been lots of those small packets that you've just seen, the standard 8 film, spliced together onto a larger reel. That's a 400-foot reel, so that would take 8 of the small 50-foot reels. The difference with Super 8 is that the sprockets are much smaller, but the picture, the frame size is much wider. So now you're looking at 6.5mm. It's only a millimetre difference, but it's 20% larger picture size than standard 8. And this went through to popularity, ended in the mid-1980s, but there are still people now who shoot weddings on Super 8mm film because people like the way it looks.
So Chris, can I ask you a question? Why was the first type of 8mm film ever invented when obviously Super 8 is so much better?
Can I think about that?
Why was the original type of 8mm film ever invented when the Super 8's obviously so much better?
Well, standard 8, which went from the 1920s, was never really invented as a standalone format. What it is exactly half of 16mm film. So what they had is overstocks, too much 16mm film and not enough cameras. Right. So what the companies did, they used to create cartridges with 25 feet of 16mm film, and the cameras would shoot it 25 foot one way. You'd take the cartridge out, turn it over, shoot 25 feet the other way, you'd send it off for processing, and what the processor would do would be to split that film down the middle, splice it together, and now you have 50 feet of standard 8mm film. But what you really got is 25 feet of 16mm film cut straight down the middle.
I see.
The problems that came from that, of course, is if they didn't cut it straight down the middle, you'd get 8.5mm and 7.5mm. And if people forgot to turn the cartridge over,
you'd waste half of it.
So you'd waste half of it, and the other half would be double exposed.
Right, yes. Okay, that's really interesting. So Chris, what do we have here?
This is Super 8 sound film, and the difference between normal Super 8 and sound Super 8 is just towards the opposite edge of the sprocket you'll find a thin 1mm line of magnetic tape, the same kind of magnetic tape you'd find in an audio cassette, but obviously much narrower, and this is where the sound was captured. Of course, being such a narrow glued-on strip, it's very fragile and can easily be broken and lost over the years, and sound film wasn't that popular, so even when it was available, people hardly used it. It was still silent film, and you'd have birthday parties with children singing happy birthday, but you couldn't hear anything, and how you'd have longed to have bothered to get a sound film instead of a silent. Rather than magnetics, they used to build in something called optical sound, and this is a printed black line that looks almost like an oscilloscope with a heartbeat monitor, heart rate monitor, and it'd be facing a light.
Right, so that's at the top here, is it?
That's at the top, opposite the sprockets. So on optical sound, you only get one row of sprockets, even though it's 16mm, and they have an exciter light within your projector or machine, which throws light through these lines, and obviously the black blocks it out. So it creates a soundtrack out of light that is blocked.
Why is there more than one line?
I really don't know.
Oh, good.
Is there?
It appears that there's...
No, there's one central one. That solid black line is just the edge of the film.
Oh, I see, right.
It's that one...
In the middle.
There's a black, then white, then that variable width line is the line that we're looking at. That's the soundtrack.
Yes, I see it.
And then you've got more white, then the picture starts.
Right. So I think we can just about see the effect there. So why do they do this, Chris?
Well, the advantage of having an optical soundtrack is it was much more had much more longevity than magnetic. Magnetic tape falls off; it gets dropouts. But this is actually printed onto the film, so it can't wash off. It will never fade. It's always going to be there. And because it was such an expensive process to do, it was never launched into the amateur world. This would have only happened on the newsreels, on BBC, Pathé. You know, you went into the cinema and saw a newsreel. It would come with an optical soundtrack. It was very expensive, had to be done post-production, and couldn't be done with a magnetic stripe, which is far inferior.
Right.
Unfortunately, I haven't got any 9.5mm film today, but what I do have is some 9.5mm leader. And the interesting thing that you can see from that, unlike all of the other film formats, the sprockets aren't at the sides, they're straight down the middle, and the picture would be placed between the sprockets. And what that does, because there's no restriction to the width, even though the film is called 9.5 and you think it's only a little bit bigger than 8mm, the film, the actual frame would go from edge to edge. So the full picture was a full 9.5mm, which is almost the same size as 16mm film. So a good 9.5mm film is closer to 16 than 8.
Chris, can I ask you a question? Surely then the space either side of the sprockets is wasted?
Yes. On proper film, when you can actually see it, you'll see picture level with the sprocket, but you've just got to focus that out.
And where's the sound recorded?
On 9.5 it wasn't.
Right.
So, Scott, talk me through what's wrong with this picture.
Well, it's a bit blue and quite fuzzy.
Yes, what else?
You can kind of see the bottom at the top.
So it's framed wrong?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, we can sort all of those out. I'll show you how to do it. See the fine framing there? If you change that, you'll be able to make sure that the picture's perfectly framed. Keep your eyes on the main screen. Keep your finger on it and it'll go up quite quickly. There we are. Keep going. That's it, a bit more. A bit more, just get rid of those little blobs. Perfect. Now, focus. Press the minus button very slightly and you'll see it come back into focus. That's it, stop. You've gone past it, press the plus button, it will take it back. That's it, stop there. That's perfect. Okay, so now we're pretty much in focus. Now what about the colour? Need to get rid of some of that blue, so we'll take out the blue that's there. Yeah?
Yeah.
What else? Is it not quite right, is it, with colour? So try hitting the auto white calibration and we'll see if it changes the colour, makes it a bit more red. That's about right, isn't it?
Yeah,
Is that better than it was?
That's better.
It's a lot less blue. You can see it, it's in focus, and you can't see the top of the screen.
Yeah.
Should we try recording that?
Yeah.
And then press save and you'll start recording it. And then when you want to stop recording it, you press that pause. We'll give it a few seconds. That'll do. Press that button there. And then the big stop button there. And you've recorded your first piece of Cine Film.
Thanks for showing us around, Chris.
You're welcome, Colin. And by the way, this machine is about to be replaced anyway with a new one from CTM Debris that can scan Cine Film in 4K.
Oh right, I'll have to visit again then. Okay, back home now in my new workshop. It's not quite completed yet, but you can kind of see where it's going. I now have the Ampex VPR2, this is the 1-inch C format machine here, and we'll shortly have a time-based corrector to go with it. Clearly I'm going to have some work to do to get this machine up and running. It's going to be something of a learning experience for me. My new workshop is getting set up nicely with good soldering equipment and more space to work. I should be able to do some good YouTubing here, including repairing this Sony SL-C9 beta machine, which I also collected on my journey. The YouTube video on that one will be uploaded shortly. Well, I hope you've learned something from this video. I know I have in making it. Please remember to like, share and especially subscribe so I'll do more content on audio and video technology in the future. Bye for now.